House of Commons. So I'll just go ahead and pick up a little bit of overlap from part one of the UK parliamentary organization. All right, so House of Commons is the lower house. Again, this is the house where most of the work, or all of the work, of the British government really gets accomplished. The way that it is organized is that you have the majority party. The majority party is considered the government. I went over that in part one. The majority party gets to choose the prime minister. So the prime minister is part of the government. The cabinet comes from the government or the majority party, and the collective responsibility. All right, what is the shadow government, or also known as, aka, the loyal opposition? Excuse me. The loyal opposition is any of the minority party office holders. They are there to be the opposition voice of the actions of the government, so the government can't just do what it wants to push its platform. It has to consider what the opposition parties would like as well. Now, the reason it's called the loyal opposition is because it opposes the actions of the majority party, but it still believes in the source of government power and still believes in the regime. Right? And you have backbenchers. Backbenchers is not a leader of the opposition, but rather a rank and file member of the opposition, meaning they're going to be a part of the opposition, but they're not going to be like, if you were to compare it to the U.S. government, our legislative branch, it wouldn't be like the minority leaders or the minority whips. It's going to be just the rank and file regular opposition members. So in this case, in 2016, 2017, your backbenchers are rank and file members of parliament who are not a part of the Conservative Party. Excuse me. And you have the Speaker. Unlike the Speaker of the House in the United States, the Speaker of Parliament is a nonpartisan member of Parliament. Their job is to keep order. They vote only if there is a tie between the MPs in the lower house, the House of Commons. They get to decide who speaks during debate, and they get to control the question time. And question time is when the members of parliament are allowed to question the government or the prime minister about their position on particular pieces of legislation or acts of parliament. It is a weekly event. And so mainly the people who are going to participate in the prime minister's question time are going to be any of the opposition party, the backbenchers. Minor party MPs can submit questions to be answered by the prime minister, and it's a live television broadcast, and it gets kind of lively from time to time. This is just a diagram of how Parliament is set up and who sits where. So take a moment to look at that. You could pause the video and check that out. Okay, party discipline. In the UK Parliament, since the majority party is considered the government, party discipline is very important. So this is very true too in the US House of Representatives and the Senate. Generally, you are going to vote according to what your political party wants you to vote. Most of the time, you are going to vote the party line, and voting the party line or towing the party line means that you're going to support what your political party agrees with. The only time you really can contradict the party line is when it conflicts with your conscience. So if there is a question about an act of parliament regarding abortion and you do not believe in abortion, but your political party does, you could vote against your political party when it's a situation like that, an act of conscience. But for the most part, the reason why voting the party line is important is because the majority party needs to prove that they have a lot of support and legitimacy in their right to govern. So if you're called the government, you need to prove through the way that your members of parliament vote that you have the power and the authority and the sovereignty to do what you need to do. So having everybody within your party vote the same is extremely necessary in order to maintain a sense of confidence in the government. So, if the prime minister, who is considered the person who is in control of all the legislation of the parliament because they are the head of the government, being the head of the majority party, introduces a controversial bill, and that bill does not get support with the party or in general in the parliament, a majority of the people or nobody really supports it, then there is a vote of no confidence. If a vote of no confidence is passed, then the prime minister and the cabinet must resign immediately, and elections for new members of parliament are going to take place as soon as possible. So if you are the prime minister, having the majority of your party support your position, it's extremely important to maintain your government or your majority. So again, that is why party discipline and political parties are so important within the political system of the British Parliament. All right, now we're going to go over how a bill becomes an act. The bill is going to be introduced in the House of Commons. So bills do not get introduced in the House of Lords. The House of Lords, they do play a role in the how a bill becomes an act process, but they aren't as central to that process as the House of Commons. All right, the first reading, the short title of the bill is read out loud, and then an order for the bill to be printed is going to take place. The second reading, members of parliament get to debate the main principles of the bill. They're not going line by line and debating all of the intricacies, but really the big picture concepts. And then, like in the U.S., how a bill becomes law process, a bill is going to go to committee where it's going to get marked up, and there's going to be a line-by-line examination of the bill. Amendments are going to be added to it, and they're going to hold hearings like we hold hearings in our how a bill becomes law process in the U.S. Congress. And then you go into the report stage, and this is a chance for the whole House to discuss and amend the bill. So if you think about it, that's very similar to our process. Once a committee is done with it, then it's going to go to the full House and the full Senate, and the full House or the full Senate get to debate the merits of the bill. So the same thing happens sort of in the Parliament. All right, then you're going to have a third reading, and this is an opportunity for final debate on the bill. And then the bill is going to go to the other house, which would be the House of Lords. And the House of Lords can debate it. The House of Lords can add some amendments to it, and they can tweak it. They can alter it, but they cannot block it. They cannot stop the passage of it. This whole phase of a bill going from the House of Lords to the House of Commons is called ping-ponging, where each house considers what the other house has done to amend the piece of legislation. And then once we've agreed on everything, then it goes to royal assent, where the monarchs agrees to make the bill an act. So pretty much if it gets through this process, it gets through the House of Commons and the House of Lords, and they agree on a final version of the bill, it's going to get signed by the Queen. And then the last thing I want to look at is a chart comparing the U.S. to British elections. Okay, so in the U.S., parties are less powerful. Really, the interest groups have more power in the U.S. than they do in Britain. But in Britain, the party is going to determine who runs where, like which district are you going to run in, because remember, you don't have to live in the district in which you run in. So the party is going to determine if you're a really popular candidate and you can win in a competitive district, then the party will determine you're going to run in that district. If you're a party leader, then they're going to make sure that party leaders are going to run in safe districts. That's not the case in the United States. If a party leader has a competitive district, they might lose their spot. But in the UK, they're going to make sure that the party leaders are in safe elections. Individuals vote for four officials on the national level. So we vote for 2 senators, a representative, and our president. But in the UK, you only get to vote for one official, that's your MP of the House of Commons. That's it. So between 30 and 60% of eligible voters vote in elections in the United States. There's a little bit of higher voter turnout in Britain, where about 65% of eligible voters actually vote. And in the United States, elections are first past the post, single member districts, where almost no minor parties get representation. And even though there tends to be an offset of the Conservative Party and the Labor Party getting more support, or the Labor Party and Conservative Party get more seats in Parliament than they actually have support throughout the UK, there's still the presence of minor parties in the UK Parliament. So in the UK, minor parties do get some representation, but if the UK adopted proportional representation, then you would see that the elections that are held in Ireland, Scotland, and Wales would actually probably support more diverse party candidates, because you can see that in the regional elections that are in Ireland, Scotland, and Wales that use proportional representation, there's a lot more party variety. But the US, what our first past the post single member district has done is pretty much solidify the idea that no minor parties will get representation.